1982, Colgate sold lasagna. Big outlets like Food and Wine and HuffPost have written about this. There's a box of Colgate beef lasagna at the Museum of Failure. But then I came across this Reddit post saying, this never happened, even though 90% of the internet thinks it did. So that's when I went down this rabbit hole, and what I found was 10 times weirder than I ever would have expected. First, I found this tiny little snippet in a Food Digest from the 1960s saying that Colgate had in fact tried to get into food. And then I found a 1966 edition of Television Age that mentioned Colgate making a line of like freeze-dried chicken, crab meat. But they started by launching Bambinos, which were a roasted soybean product, but it had this horrible reputation for making people very farty. Next, they tried Snapples, which was a dried apple chip. They also tried pudding cups, and it was called Puddinhead. Beef lasagna at the Museum of Failure. It's not actually proof that the Colgate lasagna ever existed. It's a recreated box that's supposedly meant to symbolize branding failure, but this is where it gets more confusing because Colgate won't outright deny that this ever happened. Their statement was never, we didn't do this, it was, we have no recollection of this, and they've gone so far as to redact any mention of like any food on any of their corporate stuff anywhere. This whole thing is a perfect example of how branding works on a psychological level. It's really hard to change what people already believe about your brand. Colgate was already deeply embedded in people's brains as toothpaste, and nobody wants to associate food with toothpaste.